Shalom, welcome back to the Deep Dive Special Edition series. There is a kind of wisdom that does not begin as an idea. It does not begin as a sentence or a teaching or a concept you can explain. It begins as a hidden fountain. Before wisdom becomes something the mind can hold, it exists as pure living source. The Idra Zuta calls this supernal hidden Eden, not the garden down below, not the story as we usually imagine it, but Eden as the concealed root of all delight, all perception, and all spiritual knowing. This hidden Chochmah is called the brain of Atika Kadisha, and the Zohar says it is one structure that includes all structures. That means nothing is outside it. Every lower arrangement, every phase, every world, every path of revelation is already contained there in seed form. But it is not contained like information in a book. It is contained like life inside a spring. The water is still hidden underground, but everything that will grow above ground already depends on it. This is the first secret of wisdom. Real wisdom is not only what you know. Real wisdom is the hidden source that makes knowing possible. A person can collect facts and still have no wisdom. A person can quote many holy words and still be dry inside. But when the inner fountain opens, even one sentence becomes alive. Even one verse becomes a world. Even one prayer becomes a ladder. The Idra Zuta says that from this hidden Eden, another Eden spreads out. That lower Eden is where concealed wisdom begins to move toward revelation. It flows into the worlds of Abba and Ima, father and mother, and from there into the lower structures until wisdom can finally be received by Arich Anpin and Malkuth. So there are really two movements. There is Chochmah as it is in Atika, hidden, quiet, beyond grasp. And there is Chochmah as it becomes revealed, shaped, spoken, and lived. One is the fountain, the other is the river. This matters because most people want the river but ignore the fountain. They want insight, answers, solutions, and direction. But the Idra Zuta is teaching that revealed wisdom only has life when it stays connected to concealed wisdom. If the river is cut off from the fountain, it becomes shallow. If the teaching is cut off from the root, it becomes performance. If the mind is cut off from the soul, intelligence becomes noise. Then the Idra Zuta describes a powerful movement from the unknown head. The hidden head of Atika, the head that cannot be known, sends forth a force prepared to shine. This force strikes the concealed brain, and the brain becomes engraved and illuminated with many lights. That language is important. The light does not simply pass through. It engraves. It leaves a mark. When hidden wisdom is touched by the unknowable root, it receives form. It becomes ready to shine without losing its secrecy. And where does this shining appear? It is marked in the forehead. The forehead in this passage is not a physical forehead. It is the place of Ratzon, the place of will, favor, and divine desire. The Idra says that a light called will is imprinted there. From there, this will spreads downward through the beard of Arich Anpin until it settles in the place called Supernal Hesed, abundant kindness. This is very deep. Wisdom alone is not enough. Wisdom has to become will. The mind can understand, but the forehead decides direction. The brain holds the hidden light, but the forehead reveals whether the face is turned with favor. When the light of Ratzon is revealed, the prosecutors surrender. That means the forces of accusation lose their strength. The voices that say, "This person is guilty," "This soul is unworthy," "This situation is too damaged," "This prayer should not rise," all of those voices become subdued when they see the forehead of will. Not because judgment is fake, not because consequences do not exist, but because there is a higher will than judgment. There is a will that comes before accusation. There is a desire for life, repair, and mercy that is older than the case against you. This is one of the most comforting teachings in the Idra Zuta. At the highest level, the deepest will of Hashem is not to destroy. It is to sustain. It is to sweeten. It is to make space for return. When a person feels accused inside, the work is not to argue endlessly with every accusation. The work is to rise above the courtroom and stand under the forehead of will. Under that light, the prosecuting voices lose their authority. Then the Idra Zuta turns to the eyes of Atika Kadisha. The eyes of Atika are described as two eyes that are weighed as one. They constantly watch, and they never sleep. This is why the verse says, "The guardian of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps." The lower eyes can close. The lower eyes can shift between right and left, kindness and severity, compassion and judgment. But the eyes of Atika do not operate like that. They have no eyebrows and no eyelids. Nothing covers them. Nothing interrupts them. Nothing causes them to blink. This is not a frightening surveillance. This is not the eye of suspicion. This is the eye of unbroken compassion. Atika sees without fatigue. Atika sees without reaction. Atika sees without losing patience. The gaze of the Ancient One is steady because it is not threatened by what it sees. Human beings often close their eyes because they cannot bear reality. We look away from pain, shame, failure, and contradiction. We blink spiritually because the world overwhelms us. But the eye of Atika never turns away, because infinite mercy can look at everything without becoming contaminated by it. That is why this eye is the source of blessing. The Idra Zuta says the concealed brain shines with 3 kinds of whiteness in the eye. From one whiteness, the eyes of Arich Anpin are washed in milk. Milk here means hesed, gentle nourishment, kindness that feeds and softens. The other whiteness illuminate the other candles, the other grades. So blessing does not come from tension. Blessing comes from whiteness, from clarity, from a gaze that has been washed in mercy. The Zohar connects this to the verse, "A person with a good eye will be blessed." The good eye is not only human generosity, it is a reflection of the supernal eye. A generous person becomes a small mirror of Atika. He sees others through possibility instead of accusation. He sees what can still be repaired. He sees the soul underneath the distortion. And because blessing hangs from the eye, the way you look at life matters. A harsh eye can make even a blessing feel like judgment. A jealous eye can turn abundance into bitterness. A suspicious eye can turn love into fear. But a good eye opens channels. A good eye lets light travel. A good eye makes room for joy. When the eye of Atika looks upon Arich Anpin, the Zohar says, everyone shines with joy. That is the secret. The revealed face of God receives joy when the hidden face looks at it with mercy. And the same pattern exists in the soul. Your revealed self becomes calmer when your hidden root looks at you with mercy. Then the Idra Zuta speaks about the holy name. It says that there is an upper yud and a lower yud, an upper hey and a lower hey, an upper vav and a lower vav. The upper letters derive from Atika. The lower letters are in Arich Anpin. This means the holy name is both hidden and revealed. The revealed name is the name we call upon in prayer. It is the name connected to relationship, blessing, commandment, and response. But the revealed name is supported by a hidden root in Atika, a root beyond comprehension. If the lower letters were not supported by the upper letters, they could not endure. Revelation needs concealment behind it. Speech needs silence behind it. The name we say depends on the name we cannot say. That is why every blessing contains both hidden and revealed language. We say, "Blessed are you," speaking directly, face to face. Then we say, "Who has sanctified us?" speaking in third person, as if the one we address is also hidden beyond address. Both are true. Hashem is near enough to be called you. Hashem is hidden enough to be spoken of as He. Prayer lives inside that holy tension. If God were only distant, we could not speak. If God were only familiar, we would lose awe. The blessing holds both closeness and concealment, intimacy and mystery. Then the Idra Zuta turns to the nose of Arich Anpin. From the nostril of Atika comes the spirit of life that blows into Zeir Anpin. This wind comes from the concealed brain, and it is called Ruach Chayim, the spirit of life. This is not ordinary breath. It is life force before it becomes breath in the body. It is the movement by which hidden wisdom becomes living animation. The brain is silent. The eye blesses. The forehead reveals will. And the nose breathes life. The Zohar says that through this spirit, people will gain wisdom in the time of King Messiah. That means Messianic wisdom is not only more information, it is a different kind of breathing, a world that can receive the Ruach Chayim will understand differently because it will be alive differently. When the spirit of life blows, wisdom rests on humanity. The spirit of Hashem, the spirit of wisdom and understanding, the spirit of counsel and strength begins to settle. And the Idra says, this nose is life from every side. Complete joy, satisfaction, healing. That is a beautiful chain. Life, joy, satisfaction, healing. When the breath comes from Atika, it does not merely keep a person alive biologically. It restores the inner atmosphere. It brings the soul back into rhythm. It turns survival into delight. But the Zohar also makes a distinction. In the nose of Zeir Anpin, there can be smoke. Smoke represents anger, judgment, and the heat of reaction. Anger comes mainly from the nose. You can feel this even in the body. When a person is angry, the breath changes. The nostrils flare. The inner fire rises. But in the nose of Atika, the breath is not smoke. It is mercy within mercy. This is the difference between breath that reacts and breath that restores. Lower breath can become anger. Higher breath becomes healing. The Idra also speaks about the letter Hey. There is a Hey below in Malkuth where judgments can stir. And there is a Hey associated here with the nostril, where the flow is mercy within mercy. The same letter can appear in different levels, with different effects. Below, Hey receives the pressures of the worlds. It can become the place where judgment awakens. Above, Hey is held inside the breath of Atika, and there it becomes softened before it descends. This teaches something very practical. The same energy that becomes judgment below can become mercy when it is lifted to its root. The problem is not always the energy itself. The problem is where it is being held. Desire below can become craving. Desire lifted upward becomes prayer. Strength below can become anger. Strength lifted upward becomes courage. Speech below can become accusation. Speech lifted upward becomes blessing. Breath below can become smoke. Breath lifted upward becomes Ruach Chayim. So, the entire passage is showing one movement. Hidden Chochmah becomes the fountain. The unknown head sends force into the concealed brain. The brain shines. The light marks the forehead as will. The will travels through the beard as abundant kindness. The eye opens without sleeping. Blessing flows through whiteness. The holy name is held between hidden and revealed. And the nose breathes the spirit of life into the lower face. This is not abstract mysticism. This is the anatomy of how mercy becomes usable. Before mercy reaches your life, it has already passed through hidden wisdom, will, gaze, name, and breath. It is not random. It is not emotional. It is structured. It has pathways. When you pray for wisdom, you are reaching toward the hidden Eden. When you pray for favor, you are standing beneath the forehead of will. When you pray for blessing, you are asking to be seen by the open eye. When you pray for healing, you are asking the Ruach Chayim to enter your breath. And when you bless another person with a good eye, with patient breath, with words that carry both awe and nearness. You become a small vessel for this same flow. That is the dignity of the human being. We are not merely receivers of the divine pattern. We are made to imitate it. The hidden fountain can become your wisdom. The forehead of will can become your patience. The open eye can become your generosity. The breath of life can become your way of speaking, praying, forgiving, and beginning again. And that is how the hidden becomes practical. Through wisdom, will, vision, and breath together. Shalom.